just sing a song or something.
Yeah.
So it's constant.
Those kids that are maybe more at risk and needing extra support.
Okay.
Does Box Elder already have something kind of like this? I was thinking I'd heard that they did, but it sounded like it was more someone in one
There are some
room
middle
for a
schools
test
that
center.
have some people that way, but this is just something that their school ends, or their, their school committee council felt like was a need based on data that they had looked at.
Okay.
I was gonna ask the same question, and if we look at that and if they have success, maybe share it with others.
Thank you, sure will.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll move we approve the amendment to the Bear River High School 24-25 School Land Trust Plans.
Okay,
I'll second.
Nancy Kennedy has made the motion and Danielle Wright the second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. Now approval of clubs, an amendment to school fees for clubs. Keith, that's you again.
Yeah, so if a school wants to start up a club, they do an application, they send it to the superintendent. I don't know if that's exclusively your call or if you then involve the board via,
Well, no, just when we come here.
oh, okay. So,
Well, first goes to the principal. They have to.
correct, they go to the principal follows the policy, then it goes to the superintendent reviews the policy. The only reason why I'm presenting, normally these are in the consent items. And you'll notice that there are a handful more in the consent items. The reason why I'm presenting this is that there is a fee, and because it's a new club, it wasn't on the 24-25 school fee. So this new snowboarding and ski club at Bear River High would involve $120. $100 of that would be 2 opportunities with the student price to go to a ski resort, and then obviously food for both of those situations. It is a non-curricular club. They have to get there on their own. You know, we can't use busing and other things of that nature per the policy. So that is the recommendation, that if the club is approved by the school board, that then the amendment to the 24-25 school fees document increasing by $120 would be approved. We did ask risk at the state. Thank you, Sherry, for kind of running that a little bit, about, you know, where is the risk? Again, it's non-curricular and has to be supported independently of the school. There are no school funds that go towards this. We don't pay the supervisor. All of this has to come under that rule.
So there's no school funds that go toward this, but it is fee waiver.
Correct.
So that wouldn't be reducing the risk factor if it is fee waiver with it.
Could.
So I've got to say, I am stunned that we haven't had this before. I am a proud member of the Bonneville High Ski Club, and they hadn't invented snowboards then. I just got to tell you, it's been a while. I was in ski club from when I was 9th grade on. I am stunned that we haven't had one of these before, and I think it's a wonderful use of time.
If you look back in the yearbooks, we have,
I think there has
just
been,
not
yeah.
recently.
Well, I brought my, if you can't see it, my fishing tie to support the competitive anglers. I think that's great, but it does, I had the same question. It sounds like we're taking a little more risk if one of the kids breaks their legs, and
Not, according to risk management, not on the.
unless they're under a fee waiver, yeah.
No, the risk of the activity has nothing to do with Box Elder School District. The risk of physical injury and things of that nature. And parents have to sign that off. as part of
Whether
the
they
policy.
take, if it's fee waiverable and a kid doesn't pay the fee, that doesn't give us more risk.
Not per risk.
Okay. Wasn't sure I understood that.
Yeah, I didn't understand the
response.
answers. I'm just going to
Now, in
restate
terms
what,
of-
if
in
somebody
terms
is,
of paying, and again, you can't raise the price of other people.
no, I'm
to
just
do
trying to
that.
understand where the risk is. So if a student is in the club and has had fee waivers, so the district is covering their fees,
Correct.
Even
Just like
then-
all other fees.
even then, we're not responsible if that student breaks a
According
leg.
to risk management, that is correct.
Okay, I didn't understand that from your first answer.
Okay, sorry about that.
So,
I might also add, just because I don't want to say anything later on, the Angler Club does have a fee, but the two schools haven't been able to get to their maximum level yet. Bear River High is a little higher than Box Elder's, and so I'll bring that next month when they kind of get in the same boat. Right now, they're swimming. They're fishing. They're fishing in different boats. We want them to actually be in the same boat, and they're not there yet. But we'll get them there by December, when it's iced over.
I move that we approve the amendment of the 24-25 BESD general student fees and deposit schedule by adding a $120 amount for each participant in the newly created snowboarding and ski club at Bear River High School.
I'll second.
Danielle Wright has made the motion and Brian Smith the second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. Now we go on to our information items. Ryan Green from North Park about our Bear River High School project. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you. It's good to be here, and we are very, very excited to talk about this project today. This is Corgan Neal. He is a fifth grader at North Park. Whose class are you in?
Lewis.
You're in Mrs. Lewis's class. So, I'm not quite sure if you guys can see that or if it's on your screens right there. Oh,
It's behind us too, so.
ah.
You're just a newbie.
I'm still green here. I'm still green here.
It's okay.
So, right, Easton? That's right, yeah. So, that's awesome. So, should we talk a little about how we got started with that? So, how was the blacktop at North Park earlier this year?
When we started the school year this year, the blacktop was just normal black, like road, boring. So,
I mean, it had like a few four-square things.
it
and-
had a couple hopscotch, foursquare, and like 2 basketball hoops. And by the end of the year, middle of the year, that was a big change.
Awesome. I want to go to the next slide right there. Yeah, that was our problem, right? We had, it's pretty blank right there. We had you'll see a few shapes right there. That's kind of where our kindergarten kind of lined up at the beginning of the year. When we came in. And we were just looking for something more engaging. A lot of our students, you guys were all hanging out like way back in the trees and like, you weren't on the playground itself, right? So we wanted to kind of empower some of our fifth grade students to be able to come up with something that was engaging, that could actually move a lot of that playtime like to the blacktop itself. Yes. Come on up. Could you introduce yourself?
I'm Leslie Lopez.
And whose class are you in?
I'm in Mrs. Craig's class.
This is Grace's class. So, awesome. So we were just talking about kind of how we started, beginning of the year, what it kind of looked like, and kind of how we're moving forward. So essentially that was our problem. We needed to kind of like do something different, and we didn't feel comfortable with Phil going out there with a spray paint can and making some new stuff out there for us, huh? So we wanted to generate some ideas. And so I came to you guys' classes and we talked, and I said, hey, I want you guys to come up with some representatives, can create a committee, and really dream up some cool ideas on how we could transform our blacktop, right? And what did you guys do with from there?
So once he told us that, what my biggest thought was to go home, ask my little brothers, because I have brothers in kindergarten, 3rd grade, 1st grade, and then me. So we have them from every grade almost. So I was just asking them and their ideas. That's how I got on.
And what were some of the ideas that you came up with?
We thought of like putting a logo and a better basketball hoop on, we thought to do like a little snake maze and
Those are great ideas.
yeah.
Leslie, what'd you think of? What was kind of your process, and what'd your class talk about?
I kind of thought of just repainting everything because everything was kind of chipped off and faded, and like the 4 squares, they were really faded and people couldn't really see it. So I thought of like repainting that.
And also like the states of the United States and the counties in Utah, right? So repainting some of those. Yeah, so these guys really thought within their classes and came with some ideas and generated them. In the meantime, we still needed manpower to do this, and so we actually reached out to Bear River High School, specifically their art department, and I was like, hey, is there any interest here? Like, we want to be able to have some help here. Do you have some students that'd love to come over and help kind of create something? And they're like, yes, we do, and we actually have a Sterling scholar in Kate that would love to kind of take this project on and kind of go forward with it. And so we talked to Kate. Kate came over to North Park, and we brought the community together, right? And we chatted. She asked questions. They took measurements. And these guys had submitted all these ideas. I limited each class to like 5 ideas because they were just like, what about this? And I'm like, that's a playground thing. That's not a blacktop thing. And so we can talk about that later. And so we generated all these ideas, and they took them back to Bear River, and they kind of sat on it and kind of thought about the things they could do with that. I'm going to go to the next slide there.
Hey, sorry.
You're good. You're good. You're good.
I'm admiring these 2 students.
I love it. Yeah, these guys are great. So we have some student input there. We have our committee right there under the North Park school sign right there, and we have some of our students from Bear River High right there as well. So we really wanted to create this collaboration between our schools. You know, we're less than a mile apart, and we're like, well, why don't we have more connections there? And we could guarantee there was people that actually went to North Park and would like to participate in this project, and we were right. But Kate really took over. She planned out everything, and kind of collaborated with her art teachers on some things to get ideas on how to execute it. The next slide, Keith, please. And really to kind of create that, mentorship between schools, and then just for the community as well, right? Next slide, please. That was kind of going through just kind of the brainstorming and sketching and final selection of things. Kate came back over and said, "What about these things?" And these guys were excited, huh? You guys were super stoked. And so, I think a good one to click on is actually that top Instagram, right there. Click on that one for me, that reel. I'm sorry, you have to see me talk or hear me talk. I still don't, no one has shared that with me yet. And I think it's just muted if you want to. There it is. Just unmute it right there. Perfect. There's Kate right there. So visually, so what's being said, I'm introducing her, and Kate's talking about the project a little bit, and we're going to kind of walk around each of the kind of areas that are being worked on there. I've got a better video which has kind of a time lapse of the process there. So if that sound doesn't work, then basically these two reels right here will show just kind of more of on the ground painting of each of the areas and things like that. And so, okay. And so, yeah, it basically took 2 days to get it done. It's just a really big project, a lot of paint. This is actually not just your off-the-shelf acrylic paint, right? It was some really hardcore traffic paint. So it's going to stay on there for quite a while. If you scroll down, Keith, to the next page, there should be the time lapse. So, yeah, that's the one. Nope, keep going down one more. That one's just going to go back to the sound thing. I wonder Yeah, if you go to the next page, sorry. Yeah, if you click on that, maybe that'll work. Dang it. You'll have to, I promise you, it is worth a listen. It's sad music. Oh, and here's Mrs. Lewis. There's some sad music kind of showing kind of the before.
Sorry, now we don't have picture. You're just on.
have video or sound.
Don't get it all. Cannot get everything you want.
You okay? What's up, brother? Okay. Grace, you want to introduce yourself? Who are you?
Grayson Sykes,
Whose class are you in?
Christensen.
This is Christensen's class, huh? I want to bring Mrs. Lewis up as well, too. Sykes. Yeah. So we're basically at the point, we're kind of showing kind of the before and after video time lapse.
I am so sorry, I won't go through. But I can show you this. You won't have the cool music, but I can show you the cool. what it looks
My
like.
favorite part of the before is the ball rolling across the barren blacktop right there. Add it for effect. So this is kind of the before. You can kind of see what Leslie's talking about. Like you can kind of see some of the 4 square lines right there. But it's a big canvas right there. So that's where these guys' minds just kind of really kind of explode with ideas. And the ball. It just hits home with the music. I feel like I nailed it with the music.
We'll trust you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll watch it later. Awesome. Awesome. So, and then yeah, this starts getting into the time lapse here. So maybe Mrs. Lewis can kind of talk about kind of things on her end. I kind of talked about how ideas were presented on this side. Kind of want to hear about kind of how things were formulated on your side with Kate.
Absolutely. So we first decided, hey, we don't actually have an art club. We've had an art club off and on. Sorry, I'm from Bear River High School. My colleagues and I started this project when Mr. Green asked us, we're like, oh, we don't really even have a club at the moment. It's kind of fizzled out. And so we, as colleagues, decided that we would first get a club together. And we kind of dedicated, we've had some opportunities for service in the past, work with other schools, and we decided that we would call our art club Art Ops, Art Opportunities. So, and our first operation that we decided was Paint North Art Playground, and we advertised to the kids this way, our students this way, and they were really gung-ho. We even told them, imagine kids that have nothing to do. They've been rolling a ball across the playground, across the waistline, and they're like, oh no, this is awful. They just walk from one side of the fence to another, and they were so passionate that they're like, yeah, we're gonna help, we're gonna do this. So we through this club, we got a lot of volunteers and a lot of our club members together. And that was when we reached out to Kate, our Sterling Scholar, and she is a very busy, outgoing student, and we immediately realized this scale of this project is going to be huge. So we've got to reach out to more students and have help for Kate. So Kate actually planned one of our 4 squares, and we asked other students in the club and through our art classes if they would help design parts of this playground. And we kind of collaged them together, and anywhere from just designing one little part to designing a big chunk depending on the student's desire. So we then coordinated a time that all worked for us and our schedules, and we were able to get permission from Mr. Lee to have these students come during the school day, and that was really impactful for these students. They said that one of their favorite parts, Kate said, was watching the kids ooh and ah and talk about you're such a great artist, you're the best, and it was such a booster of morale for them. They loved it, and they were the best cheerleaders. We had a great time, and it really encouraged our students to be, to do art for good, and that, it does matter. So.
Thank you. And really, I think it's also teaching these guys that having ideas is awesome. And so many times we have an idea, and those ideas never come to fruition. And how many times do our students have great ideas that never make it to the end of the road, right? So this was just a very, very real thing to say, hey, you dream of something and we're gonna make it happen. And, you know, this happened within the course of like 6 weeks, right? And so a lot of great artwork and I mean, this is better than a regular Foursquare. It's like Foursquare elevated with all this talent here and stuff like that. Grayson, what was your favorite part about it? You had some awesome ideas, and that's why you were selected for the committee. What was your favorite part about that?
I would say the basketball court.
Yeah. Yeah, and Mrs. Lewis came like after like, even the second day, and she's like, we need to get the bear done. And she was out there with her mom, and like she's just this is Mrs. Lewis.
Yes, my mom teaches at North Park Elementary.
So
That's my.
we have another generational educator here.
Yeah.
So now it all comes together.
It all comes together here. So
Took multiple days, but
Yes.
we got it done.
yeah, and Keith, there's a couple extra photos that are on after this one.
I'm sorry to interrupt, taking notes. What's your name, Mrs. Lewis?
I'm Angela Lewis.
Angela
Yeah.
Lewis, and then Katie's last name was
Logan.
Logan, thanks.
Yeah.
And so if you go way down to the bottom, yeah, see right there, the additional photo right there. So and there's one more just below the second one right there. Yeah, so just it was a really cool process to see, and
That's cool.
and I don't think we have a photo showing the photos further up there, just showing these guys. You guys got to help with the like filling back in the states and the counties and stuff like that. So there was a paint day for you guys.
Yeah.
So we sent out communication to parents with like paint clothes. Like this isn't just the stuff that comes off. These aren't watercolors. And so these guys were able to help contribute as well too. So. Do you have any questions for these guys?
Mr. Hyde. So I had a chance to go visit with Principal Green for another thing, and he said, "Come see my playground." And it was so much fun to see the passion and to have him talk about what these kids had done. And he was so complimentary to the fifth graders and the work that they had done and the imagination and the creativity. It's so much fun to see our administrators really take on tough projects and make things good. And I was at the time saying, we're going to get you a new school. We're going to do none. So at this point, the paint looks terrific. You got a couple more years.
It's great, yeah. No,
But it was just, your passion was just so much fun to be a part of, and it just looks great. If you haven't been there, it's a
It's
great.
easy when this energy is infectious, you know, it's a good time. And I should mention that facilities, like Corey was on board with supplying our paint and our supplies and things like that. So like that was a big help and a huge lift for us. Without that, we wouldn't be able to do that. We have to look at other means to kind of raise money and stuff like that, which, you know, you guys take care of it. So we appreciate that.
Thank you, Principal Green. Thank you, students. We would like all of you, could you come up? We'd like to shake everybody's hand, all of you, because you did such a super job, okay? Thank you, thank you. Hey, you guys too.
Mrs. Lewis?
Yeah, everybody.
Great job. Good job. Very good job. Way to go.
Thank you, guys.
Good job. Way to go.
Thank you, dear.
That's awesome. Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Very nice. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ryan. Very nice. Okay, you're welcome to stay, but if you don't want to stay, now's a good time to go if you want to go. So, for our next presentation. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. Okay, we will now have Ashley Nelson, our Director of Literacy and Instructional Support, is here to talk to us about our Gifted and Talented program. Okay? Thank you, Ashley.
Let's see you top that last presentation.
I know, I can't. I'm not as cool. Okay, well, part of my plan for our Gifted and Talented for elementary school is that I get to come and bring it to you as an informational item. So thanks for letting me take some time tonight. in March. COGAT stands for Cognitive Abilities Test. So that's to see if they qualify to be in our program. From there, we take our students who are in the 75th percentile or above, and we take other lines of evidence. So we look at their Acadian scores, we look at their RISE data, and we analyze those to see if they qualify for our gifted and talented program. Jeff, do you want to talk about the COGAT?
It's a cognitive ability test, and it tests essentially their IQ at that level to determine which students are exhibiting those strengths to be qualified for the program.
The test takes several hours. Many times students are still testing. They start in the morning, right as school starts, and they finish right around lunchtime. Many of the kids will go a little bit after lunch.
It's a long day for them.
And they give the students as long as they would like to take the test. The whole class. We used to only test students who were recommended by their teacher and parents, and now we test all third grade students. The reason why is because the state wants to make sure that we're not overlooking our twice exceptional students that qualify for special education services, our students that are ELL or on WIDA, and yeah, any of those smaller minority groups.
Everyone's tested. Everyone has a chance to qualify. Okay. So students may qualify for gifted or talented. We call it our LEAP program in math, reading, or both. So just depending on how their scores shuffle out, there are some kids that are very gifted in the areas of math, but they struggle a little bit more in language arts, and vice versa. So we do our instruction, our 4th and 5th graders get it during their reading and math intervention time. And again, some do just reading, some do just math, and some do both. So it's during the time that the other students might be getting some extra help on things that they haven't quite mastered yet, and they are going to a LEAP teacher who is giving them instruction geared towards our state gifted and talented standards. So on the next slide, the standards that our state has aligned for us is our creative thinking, critical thinking, problem solving, and research skills. So on the next couple slides, I just gave you some examples of things that we do in our LEAP program. Keith, do you want to click on where it says Scamper? It's linked right there. Perfect. So this is something that we do. Oh, you don't have permission. That was rude. I'm sorry. I'll just talk about it. So they have something like a paper bag, and they have to scamper it. So scamper stands for substitute it, combine it, adapt it, modify it, put it to another use, eliminate something, rearrange. So the presentation was of 3 Mile Creek and some different things that they did. So some of the kids chose to make their paper bag into a baseball mitt, and some of them did it as a parachute, and some of it did it as a pencil holder on their desk. So just like thinking outside of the box of how they can use everyday items to be something different. They do a lot of discussions, and so we teach them the Socratic seminar rules of how to do public speaking and how to listen to other people's perspectives and their points of view, and to consider other people's ideas. They do a lot of research. I believe it's January that's the Women in Science Month, and so this was something that they've done at Discovery, where they choose a woman that's contributed to science, and they do research and a presentation to their class about the amazing things that those women have done. And author research over here, they read a book that's called Refugee, and then they have done research about the author, other books that the author's written. They've watched interviews with the author and things like that, and done some research on that. The next one, oh yeah, go ahead.
Do all the elementaries do the same program, or does each elementary get customized?
Yeah, so we have like a general plan of what they should be focusing on every month to make sure that they're hitting all those gifted and talented standards. And then a lot of the teachers get to use their creativity to kind of make it their own. You know, like they all are reading the Refugee book, but then there's certain teachers at schools that are like, we're gonna have them research the author, and some of them are, you know, writing letters and things like that. So they get to be a little creative with it, but we have the general idea for the whole district. So some of our math activities, we do more like task-based, where it's not instruction, but we give students, will you just scroll down, Keith? Thanks, sorry. We give students a problem, and they have to use their creativity to solve it. For instance, I think you can click on some of those. We'll see if you have permission. Those ones, like we do coding, we teach them how to do some coding. The gizmos are like simulations for math and science. Yeah, try to click on like the chip one. There you go. Maybe. We're striking out tonight. This one is they, bring in the big boxes of chips, right? And they take out how many chips, different kinds of chips are underneath. So they'll say if there's 20 different chips in this box, you would think that there would be an even amount and there would be, 3 of each, but it's not. And so they have to estimate how many of each one. They interview kids to see which one they think would be their favorite, and so we better have more Doritos because I bet that's something that's really popular, and so if they're doing a flavor mix box, they better put extra Doritos in there. So it's just things like that where they're really having to think outside the box. The big bags of chocolate, they have to look at it and then estimate how many of each different kind of chocolate there is, and then make formulas to show how they would figure that out. So just things like that, where we're just taking it a step further than what they would do in a regular classroom. The same standards, but just having them use their problem solving and their critical thinking skills. Like Heidi Jo said, we really want to encourage participation in our underrepresented student groups. Next year, we're going to focus on getting more ELL students to qualify for LEAP. So we are going to use our WIDA assessment as an additional line of evidence in addition to the COGAT and the RISE and the Acadians. If students do really well on their WIDA and say they jump a few levels on that assessment, then we will use that to determine maybe those are students that might not be represented right now in our LEAP program, but they might be someone that would really benefit from that. So we're excited. That's what we're going to focus on when we test in March. Okay, any questions about our program at all?
Can I tack on a correction? I apologize. I think I misspoke when I said that it was essentially an IQ test, because it's actually not an IQ test. It's actually a student's ability to reason and pass different types of tests at a higher level, which is why looking at the WIDA and their ability there that progresses helps us to identify students that might qualify if they had the language and reasoning skills comparable. So thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. Appreciate that. Okay, now Jeff Morris, our assessment director, is going to talk to us about the DLI lottery.
All right. Well, I think that our discussion earlier will make more sense because I wasn't sure what format I was going to have to present everything in. I'm really glad I didn't have to go right after all the cute little kids. But Nancy, I'm jealous. I've been to North Park 3 times in the last week, and I have not been invited to play on the new playground. I miss recess. So the DLI Immersion Lottery, dual language is having some great successes that we want to highlight, and just make sure that you're aware of the processes of what's coming up. And so first of all, just some general information. We're going to look at a little bit of learning data for our DLI classes versus our mainstream classes. We also are looking at setting the cap at 27 kids per class instead of 30 kids per class. This lowers the class sizes, evens the DLI classes a little closer to the non-DLI classes, and it also allows for, as we mentioned earlier, having new ELL students that move in come into the program afterward. So there's a lot of benefit to it. So just first, I really wanted to highlight the success that we're seeing. I've broken down the Acadience reading data on the left-hand side by grade level, comparing the proficiency of our students in each grade. As we start out in first grade, it's pretty close, 74% to 71%. This is based on end-of-year data in 24. But by the time you make it to fifth grade, that gap has now become 81% to 69%. So it's become a significant learning improvement in that group. As we compare their meeting their growth goals on the right-hand side, we see that in first grade, the non-DLI classes actually met their growth goals slightly higher. And then second grade, it was pretty even. Then third grade, we kind of take off, and that gap again is there for our third, fourth, and fifth grades, where they outperformed the students in the normal classrooms. Okay. So then I wanted to just see by school where we were having great success. So as we look at Garland, you can see Garland. North Park had 90% of their DLI kids. It was only first through third grades last year, right? And we added fourth grade this year. But 90% of their kids in the DLI program were proficient by the end of the year. Golden Spike was 92, 74 at Lakeview, 84 for 3 Mile, and then Willard was 89. And then on the right-hand side, again, you see those growth scores. Our students in these programs are leaving with greater proficiency in reading, but also the ability to read, write, speak, and listen in a foreign language. So it's a great benefit to all of these students. That's all right. I had way too much fun making these slides. But with our class size, it's been the practice in DLI to pack our classes really full. And we've been doing 30. I've found schools in the state that did as many as 34 students per class, but that just makes teachers want to cry in the corner, especially on a night like tonight where they're holding parent-teacher conferences, and they have to do conferences for all 60 of those families, right, the 2 classes. So looking at what other school districts are doing, many of the school districts have brought that cap down below 30 so that they have room for growth in those areas. And 27 was where we felt most comfortable with setting that cap for our DLI lottery. That puts 54 students per grade in the lottery per school, right? And if we go to the next slide, one of the reasons that schools would pack it so deep was so that by the time kids made it to 8th and 9th grades, because it goes through 9th grade, and then in 10th grade, if they've passed the AP test, in 10th grade they can take 3,000 level college classes as a sophomore in high school. And the students that take those 3,000, the bridge classes they're called, actually outperform the students at the colleges in the state of Utah, was what we were shown recently. But you can see here, we want those kids, when they get up to 8th and 9th grades, for the classes to still be full. And what we're seeing is that they're still full. We're having increased retention of our students each year. This year we have 47 students out of 60 that were all from Lakeview in 9th grade at Box Elder Middle. Next year we'll have 91 of the 120 from Lakeview and 3 Mile still in the program, if nobody drops out in the next few months, right? Then at Bear River Middle, the 8th grade has 52 students, all from Garland, and the 9th grade has 47. So that class size keeps going up each year. We have more cohorts coming, as you can see down below. 3 Mile Creek will go up to 9th grade, their first cohort. North Park is in 4th grade and Golden Spike is in 1st grade. So within a few years, we are going to have a high saturation of dual immersion students in our secondary schools. If we go to the next one, this is the actual retention data. So based on Jeremy Young's numbers, going through his data, we had in 23, 71% of the students had made it all the way to 9th grade. Then in 24, 74%. This year, our number is 78%. So that number, we're retaining more students as this program has gotten stronger. Again, like I said, with 27 students per class, new ELL students would be able to be added. This would support our Title I schools, balancing out those class sizes and reduce stress on overcrowded DLI classrooms. So what does that mean for the lottery, right? If we've set that at 54 rather than 60. You can see right here, these are our current numbers as of last week that are in dual immersion. Garland, 54, they wouldn't need a lottery. North Park at 58, there would be 4 students that would not get in or would not have gotten in. Golden Spike is at 60, so there would be a few more there. The 6. Lakeview would have 2 spots still open, and then Willard would be down about 4 students. And so these are our current numbers, but the lottery took place with fewer students in it, to the point that this year nobody had a lottery at 60. And there were very few schools at the end of the school year that would have even still needed a lottery if we held that lottery in July when I first started this position, because I had checked up on that. So, yeah, our ELL population, they really benefit from this program. We look at our ELL students right now with our fall testing. The students that are in ELL are scoring at 41% proficient, where our students not, or in DLI, our students not in DLI that are ELL are only at 30%. I believe that shows the strength of the program in helping these students build their communication, build their knowledge in both of these languages. And I think it's a great benefit to all of our students. I did leave out the specific dates for some reason of when we're starting. We are starting our dual immersion lottery, the sign up on Friday. Some letters will go home to parents tomorrow, and we'll close it December 13th. That is a little earlier than last year, but that way we don't have a Christmas break in the middle of it, and we can send more reminders to parents. And it also allows us to have that lottery before Christmas, and there's a lot of benefit to that. Oh, we did have the dates there. I just skipped over them, got excited about talking. When we have that lottery, students still can be added to the class later, and we can even create waiting lists after that if that number gets above 54, and they follow those same procedures they would with if they had been involved in the lottery and put on a waiting list at that time.
I'm sorry because I keep talking tonight, but something that I wanted to explain that also was a little bit of a catalyst for this discussion on the 27 students per class is that 2 of the schools are Title I schools, and each year we have to do a comparability report on our FTE within that building and be able to show that those students are not being served at a lower number than other comparable schools. And that was really difficult for us to do last year because, you know, when you're putting in 2 of your Title I schools, the classes in 1st grade are 30, But in your non-dual schools, the classes are 20. That makes your numbers a lot higher throughout 1st through 5th grade. But in addition, something that also was a contributor in that is like the lower numbers in the Chinese classes and things like that. So for our federal programs funding, they wanted us to look at this as well. So,
Thank you.
I have a question back,
Yeah.
when you're saying that, your ELL students were doing better, if they're involved in these, how many students do we have that are ELL in the DLI program?
I have that number in my big spreadsheet, but I don't remember it right offhand. I do know that at Lakeview, a high percentage of the students that are in ELL are DLI students, just from my personal experience there.
Can you
But
just shoot me an email with that?
yeah, I can shoot you that. I've got it. Yeah.
Any more questions for Jeff? Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Appreciate all your hard work on that. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to have our homeschool stats by the superintendent, and then also he's going to do the next one as well, the existent small schools.
Keith's got that up there. That's so small, I hope you can be able to click on your, oops. Sorry, Robert. Hope you can click on your iPads. Karen asked for this information last board meeting, and as I have told you, Marcy handles this as far as the registration goes, and generally people will call up and ask for the form, and when they fill it out, they give their grades and ages and names, and as you can see, there are some that are unknown, but they just turn them in and don't give us the names, and the state of Utah used to have more requirements if you were going to homeschool your students, and they'd have to, write down the curriculum you were using and all those types of things. Now it's just very standard that you just come in and sign the waiver that your child is being homeschooled.
I would have expected there to be more in the elementary, and then as the students got older, so that's interesting that there's more students in the older grades. Thank you for getting that information.
You bet.
It balances out maybe with the unknown.
Yeah, it's pretty close. So yeah, it's interesting. And as I said, I believe in last month's meeting, that many of these people, as they move into the district, they come and sign them up. Marcy feels like there's more of those type of kids as they move in. They've already been homeschooled, and we do have our own natives, I guess, or people who've at least lived here for a time, have also done that too. But she said it's been always pretty amazing to her. I will also say, as I stated, I believe last month, that when I came here in 2017, the number was right around 300, and so you can see that it's a little bit more than doubled in 7 or 8 years. So it really took a jump during COVID, and then it kind of stayed there once COVID went away or lessened, I guess. I don't know if it's ever gone away. So, okay, anything else?
Didn't you say last month they're not required by law to come report this anymore, so it could be higher?
I'm assuming that it is higher because we don't have any type of we don't have any type of way to to send people out and say, hey, your kids aren't homeschooled. So yes, I would contend that it is higher, and it used to be, I think, that you had to do that. I don't know if the sheriff would go knock on somebody's door. I don't know how it was enforced, but that is the truth. Yes.
What was the population at Golden Spike? Didn't we say that this was approaching the population at Golden Spike?
It's, I think,
850
yeah.
plus
But
if
it
you
is
count
as high,
preschool
that
too.
total population is high as some of our elementary schools, and it is a little bigger than Promontory. I think Promontory has a cap of 500, so it's a substantial number of kids in this camp. Are we good?
Thank you.
Okay, the next one, it talks about the NESS schools, and NESS, just for everybody here that's not familiar, it's called Necessarily Existent Small Schools Formula. And what that is across the state of Utah, there are, I think 26 counties that have necessarily existent small schools. And Box Elder School District, of course, is one of them. Because it takes so much extra money to be able to run a school, the state, 20, 30 years ago, maybe even more, probably is more, because I've been a suit for 23 years and I've been dealing with this, so maybe it's 30 or 40, sorry, I forget. Anyway, they have a formula that they have worked on for years to give more money to those really, really small schools. In our case, it is Snowville, Park Valley, and Grouse Creek. And they have a formula where they're able to give, like I said, more money depending on per head. They give basically a number per school of, I believe, 30 WPUs, so you get that right off the top, then you get your WPUs that you do have at that school on top of it. And a WPU is 4,000, I believe, 44?
That's what I was gonna get that exactly.
Thank you, sorry, but $4,400, somewhere in that range. And so, the reason I'm bringing this up today is because last year, there was some, a bill being ran that was going to actually decrease the amount of funding that Box Elder was going to get. And they were basing that on the size of our county. Us, Washington School District has a couple down in St. George. I believe San Juan and Tooele has some. Because we're a bigger county, they felt like we have more of a base and more students, so therefore we could not get as much in this fund to be able to help those schools. So luckily, and I can't say for sure that he did do this, but I spoke at length with Senator Sandel, and the bill got taken off of the docket legislature. So from that,
Superintendent, before you finalize, 4494
4494.
was what the 2425 is.
Okay, that's the WP, that's the amount of money that we get for all the kids in the school district, but it's a little bit more for necessarily existing small schools kids. So this year, after the legislative session, we were given the mandate by the legislature, because some of them are a little upset that this bill, by the way, is roughly $22 or $23 million that it takes to put all the money into all of those schools. We still feel like we wanted to improve this, balance it up a little bit, and so there was this committee formed. There were superintendents and BAs, business administrators on the committee, along with Karen Peterson, who's a Utah House legislator, and Ann Milner, who's a senator out of Ogden, Utah State Senator, and some folks from the Utah School Board of Education. And we had, and I asked to be on the committee, so I was on that committee. We had several meetings and went back and forth, had some times that you had to get a little grouchy in order to get your way, but I felt really good because I was hopeful of being held harmless for Box Elder School District. And as it came out, you can see that we actually are going to get, this is what I'm going to tell you here, is Karen Peterson is going to run a bill this year to ask for an additional, I think, $3 to $5 million to help make this come true. And so that's part of the reason I'm bringing this up, is try to encourage Representative Tom Peterson and Senator Sandel to vote for this when it comes in front of them, and also Matthew Gwynn, who's a representative from, he lives in Roy, but he actually represents Perry and Willard. And part of Brigham, yeah. So we need to get all those three folks on board for us. And as you can see, it's a 12% raise. We actually had 1.2 million earlier, but the reason that it's not that now is because you get that 30 WPUs for the elementary, and the secondary. And when school started this year, money was allotted to Grouse Creek, and Grouse Creek at that time did not have any secondary school kids. We have since had one move in, and I have not found out for sure. I think because it was too late, the money had been allotted. So I think we'll actually get that money next year. So I believe it was about 120,000 or so. Well, 4 times 30 probably gets it up into 150 or so. Is that my math okay really quickly? So that could well be more. And so the point being is, I think it's important that the people in the community know, taxpayers, even teachers, that there's this necessarily existing small school money that doesn't take away money from our bigger schools. General fund. And so it balances it out so that it doesn't cost us a whole ton more, because it is more expensive for each one of those children out there just because of sheer numbers. So anyway, my thought was to just let you know that the bill's going to be run by Karen Peterson. I know Nancy and some of you folks. Karen was actually Tammy Pfeiffer's assistant several years ago when Tammy Pfeiffer was the governor's public education advisor. And so Karen Peterson is a real friend of education, and we've really enjoyed her, and they've been really good. Now, the problem of it is you have to get the rest of the legislature to want to divvy up another 4 or 5 or 6 million to make this happen. Otherwise, hopefully we can just keep it the same, and we would still be coming out okay as long as we didn't lose. Last year we were going to lose probably that same 12–15% the other way.
Is there any chance we can get her out for the snowflies? I still want to drive her across Creek.
That'd be fun. I think we, well, I guess it depends on which day it
Depends
is.
on the weather.
Because the snow is starting to fly.
Yeah.
That would be fun. Get a hold of her.
Because she said she would come last year, but it interfered with her daughter's
Yeah,
swim
that's right.
meet thing.
Right before then.
Instead
Okay.
of school go.
Get a hold of her and we'll see if we can work something out. That'd be great. Unless there's questions, that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent. Okay, we will go to our monthly financial report, and that's our accountant, Sherry Harper.
Sorry. Great. So as I prepared this, we're still at the first of the school year, so we're still running good. I did notice a few things that we kind of underestimated our budget on benefits. I know our insurance went up this year, where it didn't last year, and so we will need to revise that probably after the first of the year, after we get a new BA and we can work on the budget. So it's on different pages. So like on page 1, if you look down on line 25, I think it is, we were waiting for our actuals to come in after we did our audit, and so after I looked at the actuals on the right-hand side, so line 25, you notice that the actual was 21.5 million, and we only budgeted 21.2 million. So there's a few of those, and then down again on line 34, we're about 200,000 off there. I noticed those, and as I was just looking at it, most of it was just the benefits that we had underestimated. So yeah, you'll see that coming through after the first of the year. I'm not sure if Dave talked about on page 3, our other property on line 87, that shows on our revenue, we got that it has a negative 106. That was the buses that they took to auction, and we got that money, so that gave us some extra money there, which was, Jason said we got more than we got in the past, so that was a good move.
So explain the counting that it says minus 106, but it's
because it's kind of opposite, so
okay.
This is, so as you notice.
I think I get it, but it just seems strange.
Yeah, and that's when I do the bank reconciliations, I have to kind of switch my mind because that's the opposite and everything else, and I'm like, wait a minute, I gotta think. I don't know if you heard the joke where the accountant says he has to look at his drawer to see what's debits and what's credits, sometimes you have to do that, and so Yeah, so we brought that in, and it shows, you know, the 200 or 2,128%, because we only had 5,000 in there, and we got 106.4 or 106,000. So that was on the other property. That's great. I know we're going to talk about audit next month, but there's a few places that we spent, not in general fund, but in foundation and also in the schools. They spent more than what we had budgeted and for revenue, so we're going to have to fix those things, you know, on our to when we revise the budget too, that I noticed. And the auditors are coming next month, so they can talk about that. But other than that, when you look at the current budget versus the current budget versus last year's previous budget, the percents, we're either right on or just a little bit under. So I think we're right on where we should be. Any questions? Also, our school, I just got an email from our school nutrition department. They said that the schools are all doing their Thanksgiving lunch tomorrow, and you're all invited. So you don't need to call or anything. You can just go to whatever school you want to and eat lunch with the kids. So she wanted me to invite you, the board, to go and take advantage of that. That'll be really fun. So she said, sorry it's late notice, but she wanted to invite you.
Hey, any questions for Sherry? Okay, thank you, Sherry.
I don't have a question, but could I make a comment? You all know we just went through a bond election, and I think as we went out and met with people, and some of the questions that we received pretty consistently was that the people don't know for sure what we're doing with the money. And I think we answered them on several occasions, but it's right here in black and white. And so I don't know, Robert, how many folks are watching on YouTube right now? And I know we can go back later. Is there a number?
A lot of them watch later. We have 4 viewers right now. We've had as many as 47, but we have 4 current
Just
right
coming
now.
and going, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess my point with that is there's 10, 12 of you here, and half of you are employees. And so, you know, I thought we did a great job getting the videos out, trying to get the information there, and so it's just hard to fight something that, you know, people just want to take a shot at you and say that, you know, we're not spending the money like we say we are, which it's right here black and white. It gets audited by a private company that is very stringent. Is that a fair statement?
They're very thorough,
Okay.
very
And
thorough.
next month, for anybody who wants to know, that company will be here and talk about, you know, and they hit us with, they call them findings, which is a nice way to say you goofed up something right there. And we always, you know, have to improve those, because if they find you with findings a couple of years in a row, then they call them, I don't know what they call them after that, but it starts getting stricter. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent, appreciate that. Okay, are there any board committee reports this month? Okay,
Are we doing board committee? I thought it was student board member.
well, we're going to do that next,
Oh.
but we do our board committee reports first.
Oh, yeah, right there. I was just gonna tell you that the, Boys and Girls Club did their groundbreaking last week. And it was a great event, and things are moving along well.
Oh, good, good, okay, that's super, thank you, Karen. That is great, happy for them. Okay, Easton, our student board member for Bear River, Easton Johnson, you're up. Okay.
Sweet. I met with Box Elder Student Council just a couple days ago, and I had their SPO president write me out a couple paragraphs of their updates. So it says, Box Elder High is doing great. We just finished our food drive, which incorporated not only the high school, but the middle school, ACYI, 3 Mile Creek, Golden Spike, and Century Elementary Schools, raising over 20,000 pounds of food under the leadership of our junior class president. This is really where our focus has been in the student government. It was a fantastic demonstration of how committed, dedicated, giving, amazing, and willing our students are at Box Elder High School. We also were able to participate in AP's Day of Service during this time, as well as plan the Veterans Day Assembly. Additionally, our school musical is currently going on with some of our amazing student government members participating, and that was a good musical to go watch. It was awesome to see. as they look to the future, they're turning their attention towards their Christmas assistance, and that's run by the SBOs, and they're both Box Elder and Berger are working with Make-A-Wish to do a wish week and work with a couple kids and raise some money for them and that program. For Bear River, our dance was successful, the Halloween dance was. Our Veterans Day assembly was amazing. We had several veterans from our area. A couple of them graduated from Bear River and a couple others from Box Elder District to come and speak to us, and I really enjoyed it. Like, I definitely shed some tears because a lot of my family has been part of the serving our country, but really inspiring, and I could see a lot of students being inspired by that. A couple other small things, we've had several spirit buses going to Bear River's playoff games that we had for football, and in the future we've got December 9th through 20th as our fundraiser month, and one of those weeks we are helping with Make-A-Wish and doing that wish weekend. That is all I've got.
Okay, so that's great. Thank you, Easton. Appreciate that.
Nice job.
Great job. Thank you. Okay, now we'll go to our policy review. We have a number of policies on first reading and second reading. We'll go with first reading first. Do we have any questions on any of those?
Just some questions to help me understand them a little bit better.
Okay.
With the transportation one, has there been a lot of requests from VLI or out-of-boundary students that you've had to deal with so far?
What number is that?
That's the 2226.
2226.
I was just wondering if that's preventative or if that's reactive.
So, hi, I'm Jason Spars, Transportation Director. We had 270 people apply. Of those, 136 were eligible. So there's a large proportion that were not eligible either because they are DLI or because they're out of boundary. And so rather than create more angst, we thought, let's clarify that. Even though we felt like we had identified that this was only for students who are going to their boundary school, this is a way just to clarify.
DLI has never been allowed on the bus.
No more out of boundary. They signed a contract, but there were still a lot of parents who applied, and so there was some angst, and there was, and so we felt like, let's just clarify that a little better.
So with the 136 that were eligible, were we able to accommodate most of those?
We were able to accommodate 27. The rest of them were not eligible, or there were not space available. The buses were already at capacity or beyond.
Can I make a comment? I have parents calling me weekly, and I try really hard to answer every question and dot every I and cross every T. I have called Jason on many occasions to ask him questions about if he could help this particular parent or grandparent that calls me. Thank you, Jason, because he goes a second mile and calls that person, and it really makes me feel good that as a board member, when people call me, there is never a time that I haven't done my very best to help, and Jason has been really good to be a part of that. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you. Any other questions on that policy?
The next one I had a question on is policy 4016 on page 5.
Ashley, do you want to come take that?
Number 2, it says that after receiving recommendations from the superintendent, the board shall adopt or approve. I'm just wondering, that doesn't give the board any leeway. I mean, shall's pretty hard. If the board decided that there was something that they wanted different, I'm not sure that language allows.
I would concur, probably just say may adopt or approve, instead of shall say may. I'm not sure of that.
I'm just wondering, is there a reason why shall, because shall does not give the board any latitude.
Do you know, Ashley, if that's in the state model policy?
I'm not sure if it is in the state model. It wasn't a change from
We
before.
moved it in February.
Right. The changes from this were really about the sensitive materials.
So I'm
So this is model policy language. Obviously, we can go,
Is there a problem with changing it to May? That, I agree with that, I was just.
Yeah,
didn't
and
want
that's
to
all
limit
that,
the
all
board.
that too is about how it is adopted. It is not, we can't change that. That's not a me.
but you could deny the recommendation of the superintendent, whatever, if you wanted to, because that's what a board can do. But if you did that, it would have to be in a board meeting.
Okay. The next question is, on page 7 of that document, taking out 5, that a current resident of the district, it cannot be the one that would bring a request for instructional material review. Is there a reason why that we would limit that? They're the ones that are paying for the things for the district. Is that? I don't think very many will, but I think that, in respect for they're paying for it, if there's not a good reason for it.
So this is also part of the model policy, and I have a good friend in Davis County who is reading lots and lots of stuff because of an individual who does not have children in the school. It doesn't particularly apply to them, but they're just trying to create a people. So she had to read the Book of Mormon and the Bible in a 6-week time period and read the whole thing top to bottom. So it is to stop individuals that are not stakeholders, and yes, they may be putting money in through taxes, but for someone outside of the system to try and declare our systems null and void is to help keep some control on the situation.
In the state code, it doesn't say.
I thought the state model code, the model policy.
No, there's the model policy,
Yeah, it
state
doesn't
codes.
have, it's an employee, a student, a parent, or a member of the board. Are the only 4 options.
This came directly from,
And that was my
the
question,
code.
is this
So,
something out there?
a person who doesn't have a child in school,
Yeah.
doesn't work for the school, isn't a student of the school, or is a member of the school board, cannot just start saying, I don't like that book, don't like that book, don't like that book. You have to have an interest in who's,
I get that. My question was basically, was this us taking it out or was it the state? And
We took it
sounds
out
like the
because
state.
last year in the legislature,
Okay, it
they,
just gives us a little bit of
yeah.
room to help people understand that this isn't us.
Taken out in 2 or 3 policies that we have tonight. That line has been taken out.
Right.
And it is from the legislature did it as well.
Then, down on 5380, which is the last one there.
oh, did I read past that?
5380, the very
5380.
last one on first reading.
On page 3, F1, says that the plan must, this is for them to, shall develop a reintegration plan. As part of the plan must address the behavior intervention, a short-term mental health or counseling service for the student. My question is, on the short-term mental counseling service, is that from counselors within the district, or is that the plan has to have somebody outside the district, and who pays for it?
So when we have this, you have to address mental health, in our district, we have LCSWs on both ends at the secondary level that also can be used at the elementary level if we did have a child that came in this category. And so in the situations that we have had thus far since a year ago, December, well, no, sorry, since last January when this rule came into place by the state, we offer ours as the resource to help meet with them. And as far as I know, in all the ones I've attended, we've never had a parent not use that option as what we're doing. Are being used to help and support that. Correct. And not everybody has it, but it has to be addressed. So there is and I could get this if you'd want, but there's an outline of things we're going to talk about, all these scenarios, and one of them is mental health. Oftentimes, people that are coming right out of, the juvenile court system are required to have a counselor and therapy, and so oftentimes that's already being provided. We just say, what else can we do to support? Or if they didn't, is there a need for? So the one I just was at Bear River Middle probably 3 weeks ago. The kid already was seeing a counselor weekly. We just said, if something happened at school, we have options for you as well. So that's a really good question.
So in doing that, if the student is seeing a counselor, outside the school system, this doesn't require us to pay for it? Okay, thank you.
We also have Rachel Lott, that's a PA, or is she she's an NP.
Yeah.
And her specialty is mental health, so she can also count as one of those counselor people.
She's in every one of those meetings.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That was. I'll second.
Okay, Nancy Kennedy has made the motion and Karen Cronin the second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll go on to our policies and our second reading. Any?
I'll second.
Okay, Nancy Kennedy has made the motion. Brian Smith the second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we have our policies covered then. So our board discussion item, Teacher Merit Awards, Senate Bill 173, and Superintendent, I assume that's you. Okay.
I wanted to bring this to the board as a discussion item tonight because by the end of December, we have to make a decision as a school district if we want to be part of the pilot for this Utah Teacher Merit Award program. And I sent the board a update, I believe this last week, and talked about this. We had quite a rousing discussion with the superintendents of the state this last, 10 days ago, a week ago Monday. And there's a lot of really strong mixed feelings about this particular program. This is something that was modeled in I believe, Texas, and it's one of those things that you can look at the statistics, and basically what it is if a teacher has been found to have really high growth in their student scores, if they do well on their their principal's evaluation, there also has to be a parent survey done on them, and then they can be turned in, their name can be turned into the state. Once that's turned into the state, then the state has, and I need to back up a little bit, this particular program was awarded to the Utah Schools for the Future at Utah State University. And we've had several meetings with them. They have since incorporated the use of another vendor called SAS, and I apologize, I don't know what that stands for. I'm assuming one of those S's has something to do with statistics. And right now, it is really a stir in our state talking about this. What it does is, if you're a teacher and if you get in the highest category, you could possibly get $10,000 a year for 3 years, $30,000. If you are a teacher in a Title I school and you are the highest evaluated category, you could actually get $20,000 a year for 3 years, and then it graduates down. Is that it there, Keith? Thank you. And so there's really a lot of mixed feelings because we want to reward great teachers for the great work they do. However, some of the side problems from that is principal evaluation is one of the pieces of that, and there's such a, as hard as we work and trying to have good, valid evaluations, there is a degree of not being extremely even and balanced. Also, it's going to depend a lot on the kids that you get in your classroom. And, you know, I'm not sure, you know, if you get low kids, you got a chance to move them a long ways because it's talking about growth. If you got high kids, it's hard to move them. The next factor is in Box Elder School District plus the rest of the state. This is one of the things that we really disliked the most, was that what we're all pushing for is collaboration. And we're pushing for working together and helping everybody. If you're a second grade teacher in one of our schools, your goal is to help all 75 or all 100 kids with 3 teachers or 4 teachers, and working together to help every one of those kids in that second grade. This throws in there a little bit of competition, well, probably a lot of competition, jealousy, and things of that nature. And so right now, what my plan is to talk to you guys. I've given you the booklet, the guidebook. We're going to talk with our principals at our next principals meeting. I have the Box Elder Education Association coming up in 2 weeks. I'm going to get them the booklet prior to that and talk to them. In some districts throughout the state, they've already done this process, and their associations in some big districts have said no, they don't want this because it separates, you know, their teachers. Now, one of the things that we've always said is we'd like to find a way to reward our teachers, and to reward some so much higher than others is really tough. Originally, in last year's bill, they put $38 million into this bill. Our fear is they're going to put more into it, and at the same time, they now have, I believe, 90 million in the Utah Fits All scholarship. If you put just those two together, 90 million, 128 million is roughly, it's about 45 million for a WPU. So, Keith, you doing the math with me? About 3% on a WPU, maybe 3.5%, has gone to programs outside of rewarding all the teachers and all the hard work they do. And quite frankly, there are teachers, and we've got principals in the room, and that one year they have a good group that comes through and their scores soar. And the problem with this program is, once you qualify for it, with that soaring year, you get it the next 3 years regardless of what happens. And it's flawed. And so I'm speaking a little bit against it, even though I really want to be able to say thank you to the great teachers. So, Keith.
I might add, Superintendent did talk about how one of the categories is your results, kids proficient on a test, and growth, which feels good if you're a teacher that gets one of those. Those are not school-based assessments. Those are state-based assessments. So let's just start with history teachers. Let's start with art teachers, physical education teachers, fine arts, music. None of them have a test.
CTE.
CTE. We only run tests through 10th grade, and that's only in math, science, and language arts. So we've now got those 3 groups up to 10th grade, but none of the elective teachers would qualify for this. And any 11th or 12th grade teacher at any grade, because there's not a state assessment, would not be eligible. So the decision that the board would have to decide if we're going to jump into a pilot is, you know, those are a bunch of variables we can't control. Do we jump in and do it with those that we can control? Again, there could be a little bit of a frustration amongst teams. And then back to superintendent's point, within a team, someone may get recognized because my kids did better, but how many times are kids being shared right now in first grade, second grade, third grade? I mean, there is massive sharing with kids and everybody's doing their part. Some are intervening, some are extending, some are reteaching. It is pretty awesome to see the work that happens. But one of them, based on assessment, is going to get recognized as our top 25%. So we've got, that's really the decision is, I get the idea, but we're going to have 40 to 50% of our teachers aren't eligible for this. Now, they did say that in years to come, maybe they would look at the non-core tested subjects. They've been saying that for 32 years. And the reason why they haven't is because the cost associated with adding a history test, a geography test, a fine arts test is way too much. So I don't think that's going to happen if we keep the strategy of the cost of that. So if we decide to go, it's a pilot. I'm sure it'll be tweaked after 3 years. There's some intrigue to do it, but it will leave people out and the consequence will follow.
Thank you, Keith. Go ahead.
So the sponsor of the bill and the writer of this bill is Lincoln Fillmore, who is an avowed charter school, Utah fits-all scholarship. I didn't used to believe in conspiracy theories till I started working with the legislature. I'm just saying it. But Lincoln has very much an agenda, and this fits his agenda, and I don't think it serves public ed well. With saying that, the money is there and going to go somewhere, and you hate to see it all go to less than wholesome purposes.
I will say, the last couple of years, because we're in the Bear River region, the superintendents from Cache, Logan, and Rich, and Box Elder, the four of us, have become fairly collaborative. And we actually have a group text referred to as Superintendents of the North. And every time I see it, it makes me feel like a Viking. Anyway, that's just in my weird head. But we've Superintendents of the North. So, but right now we have a pretty consistent feeling that we're not interested in doing this, and we're trying to form a little bit of a challenge and well, yeah, yes. How's that sound? But one of the things that we have proposed is why not reward teams? You know, and still you go back to what Keith said, which is very unfortunate, is people who aren't tested aren't going to be eligible for this. So it's a tough one. As you read this, maybe talk to people. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I did read it, so I have some questions if you're okay with that.
You bet.
So on page 7, or figure 2, it has the different amounts. Do we have any high poverty schools that we would be eligible for those higher amounts?
Basic.
We assumed it's Title I, but they didn't.
I didn't
necessarily
define
give us
it,
a
so.
percentage that would allow us to know that. We hypothesized whether or not Sunrise and even some of our intermediate middle schools qualify technically for Title I, but we do grade banding in our district, so those schools may qualify as well. It just really depends on if they're going to set that threshold at. They have 40% that they do for Title I in high poverty schools, or 75%. So if it was 75%, only our western schools would qualify. So.
Okay.
And Granite School District has a tremendous number of qualifying schools already, so that's one of our concerns.
And
go ahead.
I was going to say, on page 21, it did state that LEAs could use non-state tested teachers. So it does give that option, but it does state that the LEA would have to come up with the the test, so.
Yeah,
It looks like it.
and in our Zoom meeting that we had, the training that we had, it said at the end of the day, it's gonna come back to the state tested to classify and rank everybody as, like, we may say this is our top 5 or our top 10, but that's ours based on what we think. But when it gets compared to the state, people that were in our top 5 could move to the bottom 20 or to the top 25 or the, you know, that third category, or vice versa. It could move either way, but it's going to be adjusted for the entire state's numbers. So if we have our own assessment and we say this is where we are and we're the only ones with that assessment, I'm not sure.
I was
how
just talking with a legislator and
Yeah.
brought up that concern,
Yeah.
and they pointed out, well, we made accommodations for that. So
That's good.
I'm just trying to say, how do we not fight this? How do we
Right.
move this forward? Because in their mind, the legislators, they've made accommodation for that.
Yeah. Well, I think we work with them and hope we get some tweaks as the pilot starts. It does say on page 21, this allows LEAs time, and by December 31st is not time, to establish reliable and valid assessments and to determine how student growth will be measured in non-state tested subject. In order to have a reliable and valid assessment is a whole lot bigger than writing it in a sentence in a guidebook. It's really a big thing, and that's why Keith said that the reason we don't have state tests in all of those other subjects is because the RISE test costs us, the state, a lot of money. And so every new content they add on to it just increases that. And so they just haven't done it.
But to Karen's point, it
Yeah.
does give us an opportunity to create it. It's just challenging to create an assessment that is reliable, valid, pre-test, post-test, everybody does it. How do we know what the depth of knowledge levels are? So
questions.
Could it be done? The state won't do it. And so it could be done, to your point.
My only point is that it's not us. I think we're the choir, but I think that some of the legislators
Yeah.
have thought that they've addressed that.
Do we have any idea what kind of dollars we're talking about here that would impact our district?
Well, we don't, because once you send the names into the Utah School of Future Center.
Center for Future Schools
Yeah.
of the Future.
Anyway, they also, use that SAS organization. They run all of the information that are given, principal evaluations, parent surveys. But I think, what did it say the other day? 70% of it's going to be based on the testing. It was in that range, wasn't it? And so, once that all gets ran, then you find out who's going to get it. So it's not proportionate per each school district. It
Yeah.
just depends on how they stack up against other people in the state.
Well, just to expand on Nancy's comment, if we're talking about millions and millions of dollars and our teachers say, why didn't you at least give us
Exactly.
a chance to take this versus we're gonna get zero. If there was a way we could do the best we could, explain to our teachers, hey, you either some people get some or we get zero.
Yeah.
We're gonna give everybody an equal shot, and that's the best we can do. I don't know, it's a tough one, but.
Yeah.
So the
Well-
legislature is changing more and more instead of just allocating money per district. Everything now is a grant, so you have to apply for that money. And the rules are
They take it
squishy.
from everyone's budget equally.
Yes, they
just don't
take,
give
yeah,
it
they
back.
just don't distribute it. And the rules are squishy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very problematic, and they're doing more and more and more of it. And I think we're gonna see a lot more this year with it being allocated in grants, rather than saying every district, this is what you get, divvy it up accordingly. You gotta,
If I were a teacher, I would say, give me a shot if I didn't get it.
Yeah.
At least we got some, but I understand the angst too, and the division.
Well, what I'm going to do, go ahead.
Another issue I kind of, and maybe I'm not thinking of it the right way, but teachers that are in secondary have a lot more students based off of students in elementary, so how do they balance that statistic of, well, you had a lot more growth, but they had 100 students who could have growth, and an elementary has 22.
I'm assuming that
Statistic.
thank you, can be worked out, but go ahead,
I was
Keith.
gonna, Brian, you asked the question, like, how much is this? I just did an estimate. If we look at how many teachers we have, approximately 25% of that is 162 teachers would be in our top 25%, not knowing if they're in the top 25 of the state, but they did say that even though we might say they're master, top 5, they might not be categorized, but everybody will be recognized. So minimum, they could get 2,000. So 2,000 times 162 times 3, but on average, it'd be about $1 million if we did an average of those 3 categories and everybody kind of stuck. I don't think that's the right word.
Yeah,
Stuck,
yeah.
Stayed in that little area. I'm thinking around just shy of $1 million. Now, what I don't know is that gross or is that net?
Yeah.
Who's paying
Well,
the
another
0.3,
another
1.34?
factor, the 38 million was, the 38 million
They're not gonna do that.
was legislated, but they've also, I'm sure the Utah's
How much was legislated?
38 million. But I don't know how much was given to Utah State for the Schools of the Future, what exact Center for Schools of the Future, and I don't know how much money they gave to SAS, which I've got to believe we're talking a few million in each one of them. I mean, when SAS came and presented to the superintendents, there was about 7 PhDs that talked us into submission almost. So it was an interesting day.
But in
So
the big picture, is $1 million really worth all the angst and
that's
you
if
know.
we did get it. So
Yeah.
And so my plan is, as I said, is start this discussion. Allow you guys to think about it, talk to people. We're going to talk with our principals, and I'm going to bring it up with the Box Elder Education Association, have them weigh in on it. Interestingly enough, I'll just tell you right now that the 3 leadership, none of those would be in a tested subject, just so you know. But I will ask them to go to their body and find out how they feel. And then by next month, we'll have an opportunity for an action item.
So,
We did discuss really quickly, as Brian, as you suggested, like we talked about, well, what about those teachers that could get it? We don't want anyone to miss out. Something we shared in the meeting was over the last few years, Jeremy, and now Jeff will, but has gone around and recognized teachers with swag, just a beanie or a backpack or a jacket for high performance. And we have had teachers say, I'm not taking that because my other team members didn't get it, and we're a PLC and we work together. And that's I don't want to wear that. I don't wear that with pride. So that was something that we brought up. I also wanted to tell Karen, I did find on page 6 it says high poverty schools means a public school in which during the previous school year, based on the October 1 enrollment as the year-end data submission, more than 20% of the enrolled students are classified as children affected by intergenerational poverty. Those numbers are a little harder to come by, but it does say, or 70% or more of the enrolled students qualify for free or reduced lunch.
and that's
On
where,
that 70%, I don't think even our Title I schools would
that's
qualify.
where I was asking, because I read that 70%, and I'm like, well, maybe I'm not reading that right, because that's a pretty high number of
Yeah.
free and reduced lunch. So if that 70% holds, we wouldn't qualify for the
And
higher
if we look
numbers.
at 25% of roughly 30,000 teachers in public schools in Utah, and you look at those 2 categories, there's not enough money to cover 38 million.
Well, another point is that that's the ones who have to be in these high poverty schools. They're the ones who get awarded the 20,000 for 3 years. If they're non-high poverty schools, then they get 10,000 for 3 years. So they would you could still get the money. You just wouldn't get the big bucks because you're not in that highest poverty schools.
So another question, as we've been talking, so would each district, if they participated, would they be assured that they would get money for their 25%, or is this 25% like the top 5% across the state.
It's across the state.
So
Once
we may not get
once
any
we
in the top
recognize them, send them
5%.
in, then that's where it gets crunched by that SAS
So it's only
organization.
5% of the state, not necessarily 5% of the district.
Well, it's possible that we could get 0. I mean, that is possible because it
We
just,
could submit 160 teachers for award and get 1 or none.
I would like to think that we would get quite a few, but with some principals sitting in the audience, you guys know in the springtime the pressure that's put on you to have them parents place students in certain classes. And generally the rookies, you know, that are coming in, the way the pressure is such that a lot of times they don't get as, I hate to say that, but there's enough pressure that it could be that we push kids into one teacher's class and the other teachers don't get the same kids with the same learning opportunities with parents support and all those types of things. And so I think the pressure that this is going to place on our principals when it comes time for all of those is going to be enlarged greatly, and it's already pretty stressful, isn't it, Shaylin? Austin, you haven't been through that yet, I suspect, but not yet. Okay, you'll get it this coming spring. That's another good thing to look forward to. And Jason's been there, and Heidi Jo's been there for elementaries. It's and even in secondaries, there's a teacher request that's pretty darn strong. So I worry about that being a huge factor.
I don't know if you remember, but was this passed by an overwhelming majority, both at the House and the Senate? How was it received among the legislators?
I think this was, and I hate to get political, but it came from Texas.
This is an ALEC bill.
Thank you.
This, I'm leaving so I can tell you how it really works. So ALEC is an organization that works with Republican legislators coming up with what they consider to be ideal bills nationwide. It does not take any consideration of what's happening in your individual state. They have a vision and a plan to transform public education that I do not agree with. And so many of these come from much higher poverty states where they're doing different things. We're getting far better results than what a lot of these are. This is an ALEC bill, American Legislators something or other. They go to a big national conference. They are handed these by the gross, and they bring them home and run them, and you can smell them a mile away. Thank you. I will.
So that gives a little history, but how many of our legislators are behind it? I mean,
well, quite a few, because it's passed as a Republican bill.
by a large majority.
It's a pretty feasible.
I think
and
so.
in fact, Karen Peterson, who we love and adore, was the House sponsor on part of this towards the end. Lincoln brought her in as the House sponsor. So I don't know what the final votes were, but I'm
Well, this is much like the UFA, the Utah Fits All Scholarship, was run through kind of in the same mindset that we're just going to make this happen and y'all are going to live with it. So
I guess the next follow-up question is this probably won't be going away soon. If it had a lot of support.
Well, I
Like the
think
Utah
that
Fits All.
with the amount of pressure that I think that we're going to put on, I think it won't go away, but I do think it maybe will evolve into something we can pilot a lot better, and I think that's what our hope is.
Democrats and two probably not. Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay.
So Danielle pulled up the numbers. It was closer in the House. The Senate passed it pretty much overwhelmingly, 2 abstentions, and the House had 3 abstentions. But it went through as a Republican dream bill, and they sadly do a lot of those, and they are not coming from local sources. So.
Nope.
Maybe it was 38 just put towards the, yeah.
Well, I was wondering, we could set up here, Bob, I apologize.
AI says
TSSP, Shine, I'm wondering if some of those funds are now
What's there?
there as well.
Okay.
We'll do more study on that.
We can look at
so
that,
we can
yeah.
make a decision.
Did they take money from other traditionally sponsored education things to put into this?
Yeah. Yeah.
But they'll say it's new money.
For public education, yeah.
But they will take it from other pots and say this is, that's why the WP is lower, because they put new money into all these projects. It's all code.
Okay, any more discussion? We're good? Okay, thank you. We will wait to deal with this a little bit later then, right? In a month or two? Okay.
Well, no, next month.
Oh, next month, okay, next month, okay, next month. Okay, we have our consent items. Any questions on those, or do we have a,
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent items tonight.
okay, Connie Archibald has made the motion, and Brian Smith the second. All in favor say aye. Aye, any opposed? Okay. Okay, any suggestions for future board meetings that are not already on there?
I would like more elementary students to come present.
That's always nice.
Come up with something great, you guys that are back there.
Very nice. Okay, upcoming events, don't forget that our Master Board Award needs to be completed by November 30th if you haven't already done it.
So, can I ask a question?
Uh-huh.
I tried to get on, and I couldn't get on. And it says to, if I followed the instruction, it said it would send me a new password, and it never did.
Okay, Connie?
Back to the April 22nd, the invite. I went back to that one and got in.
No, I just went on to.
I would call the USBA office and ask for Megan
Yeah.
Mendez. And also, if, you could also contact, a board member from Wasatch School District. Let me pull up my notes from USBA.
I don't
Her
know what I
name
did. That's the funny thing
is-
I got on.
Her name is Marianne Allen from Wasatch School District, and she is over the master board. So Marianne Allen could help as well. I didn't find that to be a problem, but I think the easiest thing is to just call the USBA office and ask for Megan, and she
Yeah.
should
Yeah.
be there every day.
Megan's very helpful.
She's really
Yeah,
sharp.
Yes.
I
She could
took
help
on
ya.
the assignment last month that I would get on and do my Master Boards Award, and I just got right on, so I'm not sure, I can't, you know what I mean? So it,
Yeah, and I got right on too, so I don't understand.
I don't know, I had my password and everything from last year ready to go, and
And it
it
just
didn't
didn't, huh?
recognize it, and it says, we'll get you a new one in 10 minutes, so.
Superintendent, when's the bond survey gonna
we're
go
gonna,
out?
well, we're gonna send it out tomorrow, Friday.
So we'll have results back, we'll discuss the next. board
Yes,
meeting?
that'd be a good one.
Okay, good idea. Okay, and then we meet with our legislators on December 11th, our next board meeting. That's at 5 o'clock, and I assume dinner will be with that as well, correct?
Yes.
And then our, yes,
Do we need to meet after then to discuss the survey?
We could meet just during
Or just discuss?
board meeting. We could put it on an information item,
Okay.
discussion item, and I think there won't be, I don't think there'd be anything
Okay,
that we wouldn't,
I was just
Yeah.
curious.
yeah.
okay. We can just discuss it during board meeting. Sounds good. Okay, USBA conference, January 9th through 11th. I think Marcy has pretty much contacted everyone and taken care of that. If not, get a hold of Marcy.
Okay, did you all have a chance to sign that?
Oh, right.
I think Easton has it. Okay, and I'll need to get with Julie and Tiffany and make sure that we've got that taken care of.
Okay, and then we have our handbook, and that's it. We just need a motion and a second to adjourn. Okay, Nancy
Second.
Kennedy has made the motion, and
Karen?
Karen beat me.
Oh, okay. Karen Cronin has made the second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you all.
I told him that, yeah. He said he was gonna talk talked to his parents, and apparently he didn't, so I'll have to ask him. Well, we still have a parent come with him. I don't know, so. Yeah, he's actually, yeah. Yeah, I told him that. I said, hey. Yeah. Yeah. It's a fun night, but it's pretty steep. Going, wow. Okay. She was in St. George until today, but I think if you call her tomorrow, yeah, she'll get back with you. I'm sure. Yeah. Okay. Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay, that'd be cool. Okay. Yeah, get it. She'll be here tomorrow. So somebody doesn't like sunflower seeds?
They're hard to eat without dropping on myself.
Yeah, it's a little bit OCD. I watched her. Yeah, certainly. You bet. Oh, that's true. Well, she really likes the JLC, so I think if that's the case, she might go ahead and do both. Yeah. I mean, but